This is an absolutely riveting track to listen to. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Molly and in this video I'm going to be reacting to the album Undertow by Tool. Tool is a band that I am just starting to kind of dive into their discography. I've kind of just barely touched the surface and I'm not familiar with a lot of their music. The only other Tool album I have heard is Lateralis. Considering that was the first Tool album I listened to, it's pretty dense. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot to unpack there. And I thought it would be really interesting to go back and listen to Tool's first studio album and just compare it to Lateralis and see kind of how their sound has evolved from their first to their third album. So yeah, without further ado, I'm just going to get right into my reaction to Tool's first studio album, their 1993 album Undertow. Okay, here we go. So Undertow by Tool, we are starting off with track 1 called Intolerance. I like the really watery sounding vocal distortions going on here. There's such a seething tone and atmosphere to this song. There's definitely some industrial elements to this track, which I love. It just adds like this really great rawness to the sound. Track 1, Intolerance. I loved the just overall sound of that track. Like I said, it definitely had some strong industrial sounds to it, which I love, just kind of that raw, unpolished quality. Yeah, I'm loving the sound of this album so far. I'm very intrigued to see where it goes from here, but great first track. And moving on to track 2, we have Prison Sex. I'm treading water. I need to sleep a while. It's interesting. He's talking about needing to tread water, like stay afloat. And there's kind of like a desperation in the sound of this song too. Like he's trying to cling to something. More of those kind of watery vocal distortions again. All right, it's slowing down a bit here. That guitar is just bringing it. Such a heavy tone to it. Track 2, Prison Sex. That track never like really exploded. It did, especially with the instrumentals. You had that great heavy guitar that definitely brought it at certain points, but they always just kind of kept that simmering atmosphere to that track, which I loved. It just, I don't know, it made it really engaging to listen to. All right, moving right along, we have track 3 called Sober. Oh yeah, I'm liking this one right off the start. This track to me is very reminiscent of Passenger off of White Pony by Deftones that the lead singer of Tool features on. I will work enough to elevate you, just enough to bring you down. Wow, it's getting really quiet here. I love stuff like that. Just really quiet and then they just build it up. These instrumentals, the guitar. Track 3, Sober. By far my favorite track on this album so far. I loved the first two, but that one was awesome. So seething and tension-filled, but then they just brought it at certain points with the really heavy instrumentals. I also absolutely loved that extremely quiet bridge where they just built up such tension and then it just exploded. Loved it. Yeah, that track was just fantastic. I'm just gonna stop raving about it and move on to track 4 called Bottom. This almost reminds me of Massive Attack a little bit. Something like Angel by Massive Attack. Very slow and quiet, like something's building up. Very interesting part to this song. I love the guitar here at the end. Kind of Mars Volta-ish a little bit, this part. And then the percussion, man. Track 4, Bottom. That one just did layering and intricacy so extremely well. That middle chunk where it was pretty much just talking to some very, very quiet instrumentation in the background. Just a very interesting track for sure. A lot going on sonically. And I'm going to move right on to track 5 called Crawl Away. Yeah, there is just like a almost grungier or dirtier sound to this album compared to Lateralis. It's really impressive that this is their first studio album. It just sounds really good. I love when they change it up a little bit and they do something like this. Yeah, I love the intensity of this track. It's bringing it. Track 5, Crawl Away. Loved the energy that one delivered, and they're just keeping that same tone through this whole album, that kind of sinister quality. And toward the end of that track is where it just really started to bring the energy, and I just kind of got a little bit addicted to the sound of it. And moving on, we have track 6 called Swamp Song. Right off the bat, I love that tone of the bass. Any track that starts like that, I just love. The vocals are really interesting on this one. I hope it sucks you down, and then the instrumentals just have this suction-y pulling sound going on. Pretty cool. I love this song. Alright, something's building up. I don't know what it is about this track, just the way the chorus builds up is so perfect. That was track 6, Swamp Song. That one's, I think, one of my favorites so far. When the chorus built up, just how the instrumentation combined with the vocals and the lyrics too of that track were just oddly satisfying. How it was talking about like dancing in quicksand, getting sucked down, and then the instrumentals just brought that kind of heavy weightiness to them to kind of reinforce what lyrically was going on. And moving on to track 7, we have the title track, Undertow. This track's definitely starting off on like a slightly lighter, airier side to its sound. Now they're delivering on the heavier sound a little bit. I actually really like the sound of this one. I'm digging the guitar. It's just got like a great kind of flowy vibe to its sound. Almost a little bit more loose, relaxed. I love this bass going on here. And then they're bringing back those awesome kind of airier sounding guitars and instrumentation here toward the end. Track 7, Undertow. Definitely a slightly lighter, less dense, heavy sound to that one. And they did infuse that heavier, denser sounding bass at times, but it was definitely less pronounced on this track. And moving on to track 8, we have 4 Degrees. Okay, this one's a little bit different. What is that? Is that a sitar? Is that what it's called? All right, that heavy, dense weightiness is back. I'm always so intrigued by the lyrical themes that Tool has on Lateralis and on this album. There's definitely some interesting stuff to unpack there. That heaviness I was talking about that wasn't as apparent on the previous track, Undertow, they're making up for that on 4 Degrees. Ooh, interesting percussion. Yeah, we've kind of got some of that echoey sound going on here. Track 8, 4 Degrees. Really liked the percussion there toward the end. That definitely stood out to me. And I also loved how heavy and raw everything about that track sounded. It's like they're fusing those really natural, airier sounding elements with the really industrial, heavier sounding stuff too. All right, and up next is track 9 called Flood. Very interesting start. Okay, here we go. I just love how they're doing the instrumentation at the start of this one. It's almost as if the instruments are flooding in. This track is so interesting. I keep expecting it to just totally break out in noise, but it starts to break out and then it just keeps things kind of contained and quiet at the same time. This track is just not sticking to any pattern in terms of the whole quiet loud dynamic. Track 9, Flood. That was just a fun one to listen to. I liked how, especially at the start, it was almost like a flood. Like the instruments would kind of flood in, but then they would recede a little bit, and they kind of were like teasing a lot with that sound. Alright, and moving on to the final track on Undertow, we have track 10, Disgustipated, I think is how you say it. Off to a very subtle start here. Very sinister sounding. Is that sheep bleating? What an interesting track. Again, there's a lot of industrial elements going on with this one. That sounds like a gun being fired. Definitely ties into the whole like life feeding on life theme, like something's getting shot and killed. This is an absolutely riveting track to listen to. It's so cool, the different sounds they're using. Okay, now it sounds almost like crickets chirping, maybe? Waiting for the rest of your mind to come back to you. I guess that's track 10, Disgustipated, the last track on Undertow by Tool. Just such a heaviness to that track, such an incredible, sinister, dark tone to it. I just found it captivating to listen to. And then that last minute was like a little message at the end, like a person talking over a radio or an intercom, super muffled. Just made for a very compelling, fascinating, thought-provoking ending to this album. So that is going to conclude my reaction to Undertow, the first studio album from the band Tool. I loved how dark it was, how intense it was. It definitely went in a heavier, more industrial direction than Lateralis. Undertow is super cohesive. I thought the tracks flowed great from one to the next. I think if I had to pick some favorites, the first one, Intolerance, that one just was a great opener to this album. It brought the energy. I also really liked track 6, Swamp Song. That one just had such a heavy tone to it. I liked how the lyrics and the instrumentals kind of fed off of each other. And the one track on Undertow that, in my opinion, blew it out of the water was track 3, Sober. That one was fantastic. Probably my favorite Tool song off of the 2 albums that I've heard from them so far. I'm really looking forward to hearing the rest of Tool's albums and seeing where they go next in their discography, what sounds they're going to embrace next. Definitely let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on Undertow, and yeah, as usual, thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned, and I will see you in the next video.